Good morning, everyone. Did you know, if you might not know about the Anita Hill Clarence Thomas scandal. Well, Clarence Thomas was African American, and he was picked by George Herbert Walker Bush, appointed to be a Supreme Court justice. And there's a woman who clerked for him called Anita Hill. And see, the Democrats were trying, because Clarence Thomas was a Republican African American, which was kind of hard to find. You know, there weren't that many of them at that time. And the Democrats didn't want to put him on the bench. They wanted to knock him off. So they looked and they found this one woman, Anita Hill, who had worked for him. They interviewed a lot of people that had worked for Clarence Thomas. And they found someone who had a complaint against him. They actually asked, is there anything that you can think of that may have been askew that Clarence Thomas did that we can bring up to knock him out? Much like what happened with the Blasey Ford thing for Kavanaugh, which it sounds like they're not going to let that go. And that man might step down from the bench. I say he might, because it's a little too much. And the death threats for his family, a little bit too much. Not worth it. And it's a complete lie. And if you belong to the Democrat Party, you belong to a party that revels in destroying people with lies. And if you belong to a party and you're following these people and you elect these people into office, these people are going to rule over you. People who destroy other people with lies. And you want these people to run the world and the life and the world that you live in. One day, they're going to turn on you. If it's convenient for them, if it's in their best interest, whatever the parties, what is permissible and what is not permissible changes all the time. And when that changes, and it can be overnight, and it's quite 1984, it's exactly 1984, it's because they rewrote, in 1984, they rewrote history every day. It was about communism, worldwide global communism. They rewrote history every day. And when the Democrat Party does that, they do that all the time. You might fall. You might be the one that falls. You might be the one that they're taking out. It's going to come down on you. So whoever you vote into office, make sure they're honest. And there's a reason why you should not trust the Democrat-run media. But I'm going to put that in a later video. I'm going to come back right now to Anita Hill. Well, Anita Hill claimed that Clarence Thomas said something like to Anita Hill that there was a pubic hair on his Coke. That's what she testified to. That's what she claimed. And these hearings went on and on and on. They seemed to never end. They were extraordinarily long. And that's the first time Biden made his appearance. In fact, it was the first time I saw Biden was in the Anita Hill hearings. Truth be told, it came out that Anita Hill followed Clarence Thomas from job to job to job. He was a married man. She was trying to get him to sleep with her. This all came out. This is the reason why he was appointed, because it was a lie, just like CRAZEE BLAZEE. Now, this might be the only time in Biden's entire life he was correct about something, and he wasn't lying about something. He didn't believe Anita Hill. His gut feeling was right. So there's a feather in your cap, and I see you're not wearing any plugs when you were younger. I didn't realize his hair was actually fake. But Nevertheless, the women hailed her as their champion. There were bumper stickers all over saying Anita Hill for president. And believe it or not, they made a made-for-TV movie about this woman. And she got an honorary degree as well. I forget what college. If I find out, I'll put it down somewhere. Honorary degree. And she's still talking at women's rights events about something that was a complete lie. She was a stalker. She stalked him. She should have gone to jail. And she testified under oath and lied under oath. But, you know, women, there's the movie. Women have, or these Me Too women have a habit of putting on the pedestal people who lie, like CRAZEE BLAZEE. Well, he got appointed despite all this, and he had said this was a high-tech lynching, and it was. It was the Democrats trying to take Clarence Thomas out because he was a Republican, but for God's sakes, he is a descendant of African slaves on both sides, and he worked himself up to be a lawyer and then up to be a judge, and here he is about to be justice, and he's actually very good. His decisions are very fair and very just, and he's an upstanding, noble person. We don't hear about anything. It was just this one complaint by Anita Hill. Well, we think that this women's rights movement, or this pink pussy hat movement, or the Me Too movement, it just happened now. All of a sudden, women are starting to complain about being sexually harassed. And they never had before. Well, here's a bit of information from 1995. As of 1995, because of the Anita Hill scandal, her bringing that complaint about sexual harassment by Clarence Thomas, and what was that, 1991? I think it was 1991 those hearings were at. Okay, so the total number of complaints in the government of sexual harassments by other people in the government rose 109%. So it sounds like a Me Too movement back then. And $22 million was paid out to government employees because of sexual harassment done by other government employees. And really funny part is that you know that overall, broadly, most people in government are Democrat leaning. And they had counted, it was like 95% of the people in government donate to the Democrat candidate for president. So that means most of your government is Democrat. The Democrat Party likes to grow governments. And I've said many times before about how much money you get as an employee, and that you only need to work 20 years. And then you get a pension of 80% of a very huge, several $100,000 a year job. And then you can go on to get another job in the government, still receive your pension. You could retire at 40, because you can retire after 20 years. And then you receive 80% and then get another job at full pay. And that next job, you're considered an expert. So you get even more money. And then you'll get the pension from that job. And then after 20 years, you can retire from that. So 40, you can retire at 60 and then get another job at full wage. And then you've got 2 pensions. And it's incredible. And Republicans believe, conservatives believe in small government. So your tax dollars are in your pocket. They're not paying for all this waste, fraud, and abuse. And a lot of people who get elected to office hire people who have donated to their campaign, and then they just put them in a job that didn't exist before with an overblown wage. And that's the way the Democrat Party works. So it's not surprising, that there's so many Democrats in government. But we also recently found out that we're just talking the Congress and the Senate, that there's been north of $18 million paid out in sexual harassment claims, that the Congress and Senate have done horrible things in the realm of sexual harassment. And of course, they still are trying to get Trump on everything. When all these people, nobody's lost their job. They've paid out these claims. And then the women sign the paper that they have to keep it hushed up. They have to keep it hushed up, so we don't know about it. And then these people get to keep their jobs. That's the contract. You don't say anything. The congressman or senator gets to keep their job. And you go away happy with your money. And they dare to accuse Trump of anything. And look at Senator Menendez. He was just acquitted recently, but he did a lot of money laundering, and he went to, I think it was Honduras or Ecuador, and he hired prostitutes that were underage, like 15-year-old girls. But he got off completely because he's a Democrat. And that Kennedy and Chris Daw on the floor of the Senate, they would ask all the other senators which interns give the best head. And this guy, there's so many stories about Ted Kennedy, let's not get into it. But the Democrats are really guilty of this. And of course, we know everything that Bill Clinton did. And if you don't know this, there's a reason why you don't know this. The reason why, and I'm going to explain it a little bit more in a later video, is that there used to be in the media, there was a rule, there was a law, that if you owned a newspaper, you couldn't own a radio station that put out the news. If you owned a radio station or a newspaper, you couldn't own a TV station. That way, you had many different types of views, different parties the owners belonged to, all sorts of different political parties. And there was more, investigative reporting because of that, because you had a wide range. But Bill Clinton basically nixed that law. So it meant that you could own, if you owned a TV station, you could own 2 TV stations. You could own 10 TV stations. You could own as many newspapers, magazines, and radio stations that you can possibly buy. So what happened was the extremely wealthy, which all socialists hate, extremely wealthy, the less than 1%ers that have a personal agenda going on, bought up everything. So you have only 6 owners of everything that you see on the media. That's why you wonder why now Fox is basically going Democrat. Why all the media says the same tune. Trump bad, Hillary good. And they keep putting out this narrative, and everything you look at on the internet, it's the same narrative. Well, it must be true because it's all the same narrative. Why would all these people be telling you the same narrative if it wasn't true? It's absolutely true. Well, you're hearing it. There's 6 owners, right? And these 6 owners, to make money and to keep money, they like serf classes. They like to pay people as little as possible. They like the world to work a certain way. They like the system to work for them and their benefit. So therefore, they will pay off candidates, put them in office, and the candidates, or the politicians that we have, are working for them. And they're going to look at you and tell you how great this is and how much this way is so much better for you. But in all actuality, it's better for the people who put them in office, that are actually running the show and getting the lies out. And you think the lies are true because everyone's saying this. Now, this is an absolute fact. That's why people are going to alternative media to get their news sources. This is why. And yes, these people, the whole idea of worldwide communism, globalism, is that the reason why this country was started, and the reason why there was a middle class, and you could work your way up from poverty all the way up to the top, is because we broke away from monarchy, where there's a class system. There's people at the bottom, and then there's the lords and the monarchy on top. Basically, nobility is your nobility, and then the people at the bottom. We broke away from that. So America invented a middle class and a way for people to work from the bottom up to the top. Well, socialism, you take all the money away from everyone and everybody's at the bottom. And then you've got a huge government, the Democrat government, a huge government that runs the show and is going to run your police. Remember, the police are bad. They're going around shooting innocent African Americans. We were taught to hate the police. Well, they're telling you, and Swalwell just came right out. He came right out. One of these candidates for presidency. And basically, they're all like this. They're all singing this tune. It's the same tune. Even that Buttigieg, that Pete Buttigieg, is that how you pronounce his name? They're all extremely socialistic. They want to take the guns away, and they want you to give it to the government. Really, you have to turn them into the government. What happens there? Well, that police department that's becoming militarized. Well, that police department, it's going to be only them that has the guns. So if you don't want them to have the guns, then we have to keep the Second Amendment, where people can legally have the right to own guns. Otherwise, the government, and that's communism. That's why they take people from off the street, and their families and friends never they see them again. They go to the gulag or they go to Siberia. That's what happened during communism, because the government in communism, in fascism, that's the first thing they do is take the guns away. So if you're against this, then you really should be against the Democrat Party, the Socialist Party, because they're the ones with all the power. And unfortunately, these people, these 6 owners of all the media that you hear, want this. Because globalism works for them, because you have an unelected body of government, you have an unelected dictator. There's an unelected group of dictators that run the EU. That's what the whole world is going to be. And that's what these people want. The people who own all the media, the 6 that own all the media that's out there, everything you read and everything you hear and everything you see. And that's the way it's going to be. The only way you can break away from it is, you're lucky. You have somebody in office that was never a politician. You've got the Republicans who lie and they do absolutely nothing, and the Democrats who basically tell you that that the world is going to be socialist. And then they get in there, and the answer to every problem is raising your taxes, people paying more. That is the answer. They don't have to pay. They're not going to put a dime in the bucket, but they look like saints, and they're going to raise your tax, like Bernie Sanders, who's a millionaire who owns 3 houses. That's the dictator on top. That's what he wants to be. He didn't have a job until he was 40 years old, and then what did he do? Work for the government and give 1% to charity. That's how much he cares about the little people. Now, I wanted to put that into a different video. I didn't want to put it into this one. But everything kind of connects. So I'm going to sign off now. I've got several different videos to do, but I put 2 together Because see how the web and the tentacles are interlocked into everything? That's why we think all this Me Too movement is brand new. We think this is all brand new. It isn't. You see, the Democrats keep bringing this up. Now, why are they doing this to the women? Of course, all these payouts are hush-hush. We don't know who these politicians are. And these are the people you're electing. These are the people that are bashing Trump. And they've paid out in sexual harassment claims. And you don't know who they are. I think that's really funny. That's why I don't like either the Republican or Democrat Party. They're liars. They're liars. They're liars. That's why you need somebody who is not a politician in office. You need a whole new party. Or just somebody who's going to work for the people. Forget the party, somebody who works for the people. That's why you're lucky you got Trump. But he won't be in there much longer, even if he does have 4 more years. So it's up to you to get people who are going to actually work for the American people and work for freedom and keep a middle class, because that's what the Democrats and socialists want to do. It destroys the middle class. There's no way to work yourself from the bottom up. No way. And that's what you're buying. Anyway, goodbye, everyone.
Dances with Thor.